Anyway, if it was right, how do I go?
You guys simply just skip the next step.
All right, 5 o'clock, let's get started. We got roll call and approval of proxies. Wow. She's looking proxy approval.
Here.
Dolly.
Here.
Nicolay. Here. Roach. Dutton.
Here.
Holmes.
Here.
Cameron.
Here.
Ethan.
Here.
Feinshauser. Here. Knott. Neal. Rogers.
Here.
Porter. Here. Television. Here. Sorrow. Here. Thielen.
Here.
White. Here. Wow.
Here.
Bugsy Marshall.
Here.
Bennett. Pinto. Here. Sharma.
Here.
West.
Here.
Lau.
Here.
Here. Nine.
Can I entertain a motion to approve proxies? Brandon did make a motion to approve proxies, seconded by Senator Dan. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Alright, approval of the agenda. So on the agenda, the actual agenda that's saved on the app drive, I changed it to Art Club presenting first. And so the paper agendas are just a little bit off. So, but other than that, are there any corrections or revisions to the agenda for tonight? Seeing none, who's great unanimous consent? Minutes. Did you all have a chance to look over the minutes from last week? And are there any corrections, additions? Nothing? Alright, cool. Open floor, guys. We'll start out, we got Art Club first. So if you guys want to go to the front, I think it'll probably be easier. I don't know, do you have a PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You have the stage. And Josh, could you move the table back and then move the camera around? Just so it's facing me.
Also check if the live stream is on.
Yeah, there should be a PowerPoint open.
Maybe a little bit more back
Oh, you
to catch all of them.
Okay, do you want to just?
I usually read them in house. Except with the wheel of time.
Hey everybody, so we're the art club here on campus, the Hard Rock Art Club, and I'm Alex Quickie. I'm the president of this organization.
I'm Caitlin Fiala, I'm the vice president.
And I'm Matt Whitehead, the advisor.
And today we're going to show you what we do.
So our purpose that we have decided for Art Club is we want to inspire students to be more artistic, because for an engineering school, our art programs are almost non-existent. And now that we have a new awesome art professor, we finally have an art club that's up and running. We've been meeting for weeks since his first semester, doing all sorts of stuff, and we want to be able to continue that as an official club.
And we've been meeting weekly since about the second week last semester, so we're just not an official club yet. But things things we've done since the beginning of last semester, where we, like I said, meet weekly, and then we've collaborated with the drama club already, and we had a hike in the fall of last semester where we all hiked up to the Poets Table, and we did some art and we left it there. And then we did an acrylic pouring activity on the day of last semester before finals.
So some of our future plans is we want to do collaborations with more clubs. Next week on Monday, we are doing a collaboration with OSTEM. We're going to paint a banner to show our support to them and their support to us as art club. I'm not sure about the other two.
So we're also collaborating with Active Minds for a mental health awareness sort of thing. And then we also were asked to collaborate with K-Tech just to kind of do a story on us in the radio station. So, and then we're also thinking of doing a classroom building mural and as well as a classroom building sculpture to replace one of the sculptures above the stairwells in the music building. And then classroom building, and then the music building stained glass window to replace one of the windows in the music building, as well as workshops in the gallery and out-of-state art education trips to Chicago, Denver, to see art exhibitions there.
For our fundraising ideas, we have a button maker and a gumbo machine, and so we want to sell buttons in Lower Survey. It'll be random buttons. Students can also come and make buttons to put in the machine. We also want to do some art sales. That one's always iffy. Selling art isn't always promising. But there are the groups that sell roses around Valentine's Day, so like Blacksmithing Club and 3D Printing Club did it this year. We would do like paper roses or fabric roses or that sort of thing, just a different medium. Selling decorated baked goods for holidays, doing Easter events. We were discussing that for this year if we can pull it off. Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, those sorts of things.
Any other Q&A?
Open to any questions? I guess one question: how many people are you planning on going, or are planning on going to the exhibitions in, you said, Denver, Chicago?
So we're not entirely sure yet. We of course would send out an email, like a poll or something like that, to gauge how many people we would want, who would want to come and the interest. And as of right now, we have about like 10 members who come either every week or every other week, something like that. So they would probably be the most interested. So
How many people did we have on our Hardy Peak hike?
on our Hardy Peak hike, I think it was. Poets Table. Yeah, 8.
And of those like 10 people that show up, what's the spread of freshmen, senior, and grad student?
We have freshmen. We also have
A lot of
few
freshmen,
sophomores.
a few sophomores, lots of juniors, 2 graduate students.
Okay, cool. So a pretty big spread.
Yeah.
Do you plan on asking for some funding?
Yes. Yeah, mostly for supplies and that kind of thing, because art supplies can be kind of expensive right now. We mostly pay for the supplies either out of pocket and stuff like that, so we would really, that is definitely something that we are looking into.
And some of the stuff that we bought so far is just canvases and bulbs for the acrylic pouring that we did, extra paints if there were colors that we didn't have. Mostly small stuff right now, but with some funding we would be able to do larger projects for our art club.
First of all, I want to say you guys did a wonderful job, and I think this would be a great idea to have on campus. I was wondering if you guys had talked to Happening at all?
I just spoke with one of the representatives, and they were talking that they wanted to get in contact with us for some of their painting nights and whatnot to try and collaborate on that.
Is most of the interest right now towards just like physical art, painting, and pottery and things? Or is there a photographer, real big photography or video interest as well?
Oh yeah, we, in our constitution, we include all different types of art, such as even dance, theater, music, video, bead making, crafts, that kind of thing. We hope to incorporate and include all sorts of just creative mediums and expression.
And we're, open to anything that anybody wants to do or help. If anybody has an idea for something, we are totally open to, photo trips to the mountains or whatever it might be. We're really excited about it.
And Art Club also wants to help support the gallery and the student art show that's coming up. So
For the art sales, you said one of your fundraising would be art sales. Would that be kind of like an auction, or what's your vision for that?
Auction is a good idea. I mean, that's a fun way to do it. We've thrown out a lot of ideas, and we haven't nailed down specifics for that one yet. It could go a lot of different ways.
Even just commissions because a lot of people on campus are really into pop culture things such as like movies, TV shows. We could do commissions for that if someone wants a poster to hang up in their dorm room.
That's what I was kind of thinking. If we created artwork and then made it into posters that we could sell, whereas something that's reproducible. So the price would be a lot lower for students to afford. That makes sense.
Any other questions?
You mentioned in one of the slides you'll be making sculptures for classroom buildings. Do you plan on placing one there, or how does it work?
So, sorry, I was, but so those sculptures, the wall sculptures that are hanging above the stairwells in the classroom building? We're thinking of replacing one of those with something that we all collaborate to create. One idea that we had was to gather a bunch of junk or things that people would throw out from all of the different departments and create a large M with it, and then taking extremely black painting over the front of it just so you can see the M when you look at it face on. But then as you look to the side of it, you can see all of the different objects and things that make up this campus.
That's pretty cool.
And then as a contrast to that, the mural that we're thinking about would be like the students who make up the campus. So the sculpture would be like, this is what campus is, and then this is the people who actually attend. So we're not all just engineers. We enjoy music and art and going biking or hiking or sitting around and doing nothing all day. We're people, we're not just a school.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much for coming. And so the resolution for our club will be read today and then voted on next week. And so we'll just keep you guys updated. So, and am I planning to switch this back over? Okay, so next up we have Corey who's going to be presenting for SALC, and then several presenters for Rocker Days. Okay. We'll just play it by ear.
Okay, I'm going to start on this side of the room. Okay, we ready to go?
You can probably down the lights a little bit. I'm sorry.
There.
That should work better.
Is that good, or do I want to another side? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Obviously, I know most people in this room, but since we've got some guests tonight and some proxies, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Corey Headley, and I'm the Director of Student Activities and Leadership here at the School of Mines. I am in my 6th year here at the school. My 3rd year serving as the director. So really in celebration of Academy Awards this weekend. I really wanted to start the session by doing my thank yous. And so, thank God that joke did not fall flat. Okay. All right. So, first thank you is really to the members of Student Association, but even more than that, to the entire student body here at the School of Mines for continuing to support the staff and the programs of the Student Activities and Leadership Center. Whether it's SCAF funding or some of the other programs that we do that are funded in different ways through the university, at the end of the day, all that money comes from you as students. And so we really appreciate that support. So as Jake said, we're going to present 3 budgets today. I'll do the Student Activities and Leadership budget, the Drama Director budget, and then I'll turn it over to the Tri-Chairs to do the Rocker Days budget. But I wanted to flash back to 2005. Trusting that all of you were alive at that point. That was the year that I started my first higher ed position at the University of Wyoming. And as I started that position, our Division of Student Affairs had a mission statement, or really a vision of focusing on students first. Okay? And we got a little placard that we kept in our offices. We looked at that every day. And then we also got a document that I wanted to share briefly with you. Okay? Focusing on students first. A student is the most important person on campus. Without the student, there would be no need for the institution. A student is not a cold enrollment statistic, but a flesh and blood human being with feelings and emotions. The student is not dependent on the college, rather the college is dependent on the student. The student is not someone to be tolerated to do our thing. A student is our thing. And a student is not an interruption of the college's work, but the purpose of it. We are not doing the student a favor by serving him or her. The student is doing us a favor by giving us the opportunity to do so. And so you're going to hear a lot of things about strategic plans and mission statements and all those things that the university has and our offices and our departments have. All those documents are important and help guide what we do. But at the end of the day, that document is more important to me. It has traveled with me since 2005 to every position that I have. It's visible that I see it every day to remind me of why I do what I do, okay? And I wanted to share that because I think oftentimes as student or as staff and things, we don't thank you all as students for you being here as much as we should. So I really want you to know that you're important and we really care about you being here, and obviously thank you for choosing the School of Mines. So if we start off here with the Student Activities and Leadership budget, as we go through this, there is an increase in the budget from previous years, so I'm going to go through some of those things, kind of what we're looking at, where we made some cuts and things as well. So I really want to start up with this slide. I shared it last year, but there's a little bit of a change to it. I'm going to talk about that briefly. When we look at the Surbeck Center, it really is the student union, and if you look at the purpose of, or the role of a student union at an institution, it really is the community center on campus. Okay? Sometimes, as Stephanie talked about last week, you hear it's a home away from home or the living room of campus, those kinds of things. They look different at every campus. Some campuses don't have physical spaces. Obviously, we're lucky to have a physical space there. When you look at the setup of staffing in a union, sometimes they take care of the event side of things, the facility side of things, and the activity side of things. Obviously, here at the School of Mines, the role of the Student Activities and Leadership Center is to promote the activity and the engagement side of our campus. And then I really wanted to share the role of the college union here just briefly. And this means a lot to me for this particular session. We'll talk a little bit more when we come to the professional development and talking about ACY, which is the Association of College Unions International. That's my professional organization. And I spent several months with colleagues across the country updating this role statement that had not been updated since the early 90s. And so, again, that means a lot, being able to participate in doing that and helping guide our profession moving forward. Okay, so a little bit about the things that we do. Obviously, we provide advice to all of our organizations on campus as they need to, but especially I advise the debate club. We work with Creek Council. We'll talk about Rocker Days. We work with orientation. OSTEM's under me as well, Ski and Snowboard Club. You can see all of these organizations that have direct advisement by either myself or Graham. And then additional responsibilities. And these are just programs that we have throughout the year. Things that we're doing both for current students, but also our non-traditional and prospective students that come through that. Okay. So a little bit about fiscal year 20 and some of our goals that we're going to talk about with the budget. Obviously, it's important that our office is continuing to support the initiatives and the programming of Minds Advantage. So obviously, one of our critical pieces is the leadership and teamwork section of that, but we have a role to play in all of those categories. So it's important that we're supporting that programming. I'll talk more about collaborative programming, but continuing to work with multicultural affairs, some of the other student development offices, athletics we've had good partnerships with, as well as student organizations. In order for us to make sure that we're spending money wisely and looking at new programs, it's important that we have data to back it up, and I'll talk about that in our budget here shortly, what that expense is. And then just as the university is going through some strategic planning, beginning this summer, the Student Activities Office is going to go through some strategic planning and where we want to go in the future. And I shared some of this with Dr. Mann earlier this week. First part of that strategic plan is looking at possibly changing the name of the office to make sure that it's more encompassing of everything that we do. So we'll be looking at other institutions to make that informed decision. Then looking at the creation of a student involvement center. And my focus there really is as you walk through the double set of doors down into the lower level, that space is already created. Okay? I really want to refocus that space, not taking away any tables for studying or any of that stuff. But really similar to what we did with the You Are Welcome Here wall, maybe above the entrance of the door it says the Student Involvement Center or something to that aspect. So when people are getting tours and things, rather than calling the lower level down there the SALC, which it is kind of, but it's more than just the SALC, you're walking in and we're really encompassing engagement opportunities. And so that includes the Veterans Resource Center, our student media, OMA, all of those offices have really revitalized that area for an engagement hub on campus. And then on the other side, which we're not talking about gap this evening, but a huge project is always continuously improving orientation for new students. Okay? So I want to talk a little bit here on salaries because there is some changes here, not only in titles, but also amounts. And so last year, with regards to student employees, we had 2 student employees, one of which was supposed to be a work study position, and then that didn't end up going through, so we funded them fully. So about $3,000 of our budget allocation last year went to student employees. Okay? Looking at our needs and things for students, we are moving to 1 student employee next year. And so the savings from that was reallocated into some of the other salary dollars to get them closer to market. And so that's where you see some of the change there. As Stephanie said last week, those are also based off of the 2.5% raise that the governor proposed and keeping benefits similar to what they were last year. Then we've got some title changes. And so I kind of shared this with you a little bit about how positions are funded here at within a couple of our departments. So this first one, Student Activities Coordinator, that is currently Cheryl's position. She's known as a program assistant. So the position itself is not changing. The title's changing to really focus more on the programming piece that that position does, as well as the administrative functions. And so as was shared, and I think we talked about it earlier, as Cheryl transitions out of that position and when that is posted for the new person, that will be the new title. You'll notice that only 66% of that salary is covered through the SCAF budget. The rest comes out of orientation, and then OMA and International Center help pay a portion of that salary as well. The OMA position, this position changed titles. It was a program assistant, as well as for those of you that remember when Abena was here. Okay, that position and the focus of that office is changing a little bit with regards to programming, so that position has been moved up to an assistant director position. Salary really didn't change much. It actually went down as a starting point. That position is currently vacant. We hope to have that position filled by the fall, and so that's the percentage that our budget covers there. And then you can look at the total salary and benefits there. All right, so with regards to professional development, just as you all are here as students educating, going to conferences, those kinds of things, always learning and developing yourself, it's important for us as professionals to do that same thing, to network with colleagues across the country to make sure that we are staying up with what's going on in higher ed, that we're doing the best that we can for you. So similar stuff with the requests that we had last year. ACY membership, that covers both membership for my office as well as the Surbeck Center, so they can utilize those resources, and then cost of me attending their conference. Okay. Additional things that we've used that membership for this last year is they do several webinars. We did one on upcoming Title IX issues that several of us sat in, free speech issues. There's been several discussions as we've been dealing with that, working with them, and several other programming that we get to do right here at the institution that's open to works as well. NACA, that is for the assistant director to go get programming ideas as well as ideas for leadership and workshops. The SDHEA conference membership, that is a higher ed association within the state of South Dakota. So it's really important for our division to be connected with those folks across the state of South Dakota. And so Graham represents and has represented the student activities in that piece. And then really the additional dollars is there for workshops for students that are working for us, or Cheryl's position, for example, to get some professional development as well. Okay. A little bit of operations budget. A lot of it didn't change, but there's an addition here that I want to talk to you a little bit about. Last year I presented on the music license costs. Those are 3 music licenses that we share that cost with K-Tech. Okay, so when they do their SOAP presentation, they budget for their portion, I pay the other half. So this allows us to have music at events and do different things without breaking copyright to be able to do that. So those are costs we have every year that we have to pay. Okay? Again, the rest of the budget didn't really change. These highlighted portions are what the addition is. And what that is we're looking at how do we collect data from people coming to our programs. Several years ago, we used to have the little card swipes that you swiped your ID card at the career fair and a bunch of different events. Okay? So a couple years for security issues, the Board of Regents made some changes to the ID card. It no longer is attached to your student ID number. And so the Career Center in my office had just bought new card swipes to get the fall started, and then we could no longer use them because they weren't reading any information. So we've not really been able to track data and who's coming to our events. And so a conversation happened about a month ago with athletics. They're trying to get data of who's going to athletic events. So the conversation came up about getting Blackboard readers for events. So athletics is looking at this for all of their home events. I'm proposing one for the Student Activities and Leadership Center, which then can be used by student orgs, student association, or whatever to try it out to see if this is the data that we want to be able to collect. Okay? So some of these costs are one-time costs, and then a couple of them are yearly. And so the iPod costs, which we would attach the reader to, the actual reader device, and the installation is a one-time cost, and then the annual maintenance and then just the license for it is an every year cost. And so some of that will go down after this first year. Again, by doing that with the Blackboard reader, we're also trying to prepare if the ID cards change. So right now we still swipe cards. We are looking at the possibilities of the university where stuff is tapped on and we're doing different things with different readers. So we'll be prepared for that if it does go that way. And again, being attached to Blackboard, that'll be able to pull data of who's coming to our events, what class they're in, where do we need to reach out for that. So that's really added there in that part of the presentation. Okay, so just a little bit about programming and some things that I want to talk about briefly on some changes to programming. So I talked earlier about that co-sponsorship. We really tried to do some work on reducing costs of events in a few areas. A couple of those are the Children's Holiday Party and the Parade of Trees. Those costs have been reduced significantly because the President's Office is now co-sponsoring those events and is paying for all the refreshments at the events. So with the Children's Holiday Party, that leaves us with the gifts for the kids. Okay, so that was reduced there. We took money away from the Constitution Day because really we're not needing money for that programming currently, so that has been reduced. With regards to Family Weekend, a couple changes here. We reduced the cost this last year of the mailing of the postcards to go to all families. We changed the postcard size, so that alone reduced some of the costs. But you will see an additional $500 request in there for the Family Weekend tailgate. So there used to be a sponsorship through athletics for that tailgate with Save a Lot. The story has changed. That sponsorship has gone away. So this last year, Rowdy Rockers graciously stepped up to do it. But this is going to be in collaboration with athletics. They're putting forth $500 as well out of their budget to give the Rowdy Rockers a good budget to be able to do that event for us. Okay. Other than that, the rest of the programming budget is similar. Still working on constantly being able to collaborate with student orgs, with events, and moving some things forward. Okay? So the total request for the SALC for the GAF budget this year is $213,097. Okay? Questions about the SALC portion? Great.
How many years, I guess, how old is your computer?
Mine is 3 years old. So the one that we'll need to replace coming up will be Cheryl's. Similar to what Stephanie said, we try to keep them on the rotating piece of that. And if there's a year that we don't need a computer, then we go after some other form of equipment. So last year we put it towards purchasing the cotton candy machine and some other stuff that offices and student works could use.
How old is Cheryl's?
5 years, probably 5 or 6 years. Because I think it was my 3rd year as the assistant teacher it was replaced. Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Oh, sorry, I'm not pointing out people you fell on.
So the intent eventually for the Blackboard readers would be for student organizations to use them at their events. If you wanted that.
Yeah, and then that's all. And at this point, we really don't. And I don't look at it as an enforcement thing, but we don't really request student IDs a lot, but it's another good purpose at that because I think we've talked sometimes the last couple of years about how do we reward people that go to events or what does that piece look like, and I think that's going to be through getting data of who's coming to events. So this is going to allow us to see who's coming in and get that information out.
It was basically the same. I'm a little confused on what necessitated the change to the Blackboard readers. What changed on that?
I don't have a lot of background on it. I think there was some security thing that went across the Board of Regents, from my knowledge. Honestly, we weren't made aware, so that's at the time Jay Pfeiffer was still here, and so Jay, Daryl, and myself sat down. The card swipers that we had were already 5 years old, so we're like, oh, these are working for us. When we plug them into the MindSlink system, it attaches to the user. We upload it. Everything works perfectly. I think it was like a couple days after they all arrived in the mail that we got the email coming down saying, for security reasons, this actual student ID is no longer attached to it. So it's just a random number that you're kind of assigned to. I think helping protect identity a little bit, but the whole reason behind it, I don't know.
Okay. And then we'd be able to use the new Blackboard system just to associate that number with said student.
Yeah, and it would pull because it'll be reading right into the Blackboard system. So it's similar for those that have meal plans and things. When you go swipe it at the dining hall or do some of that, it's attached to your account. And it allows us to keep some of that secure and private as well.
So would that link directly, could or could it link directly to like MindSlink, right? So if you're going to an event, does it automatically go to?
I hope so. The issue that we have right now with MindSlink is that everything's attached to your student ID number, so we hope. I'm working on that and formulating that. The other thing that I had a conversation with Matt today and Hillary in the Career and Professional Development Center. I know there's a lot of survey fatigue right now, so we're not going to do it right now. But it is time for us to really talk about the MindSlink system. You know, as we're looking at contracts and things, is it working? Is it what student orgs need? Because when you look at that system, it has two purposes. One to house Minds Advantage and that curriculum, and the other thing for student orgs. So if it's not working, and we need to look at a different system or another way of doing things, we need to get feedback from students. And so at that point, then that would be a huge question for the incoming program or whatever to make sure that it's reading some of that stuff. But at least we would know names or whatever, so you could still somewhat attach them to the curriculum to get credit for it.
For that ACY membership, you said that survey in general.
Yep, so it covers membership. We can have 5 staff. I think right now we have 3 in the spots. Like I listed Dr. Mann, for example, on that membership list so that she's getting information from them. But really the bigger piece is the webinars and things that we have, and really the purpose of that organization is advancing campus community. So it's really a great connection for us moving forward. May allow us to hold some conferences and things here in the future as well. Okay.
When it comes to using SurveyMonkey, do you send any surveys to faculty?
We haven't currently, but we can use that system. And thanks for actually bringing that up. There is an adjustment in that price on SurveyMonkey, although it went up a little bit from last year. But thus far, we've used it for all of our orientation assessment. I think Student Association has done for 10 surveys through SurveyMonkey. So it's being heavily utilized. And I think just as Student Association has used it, we also used it for the Wellness Fair a week or so ago. So I'm happy if student organizations are really looking at that we could look at that piece, which also leads us that we're going to be having a greater conversation about surveys in general and what that looks like, because especially with some of our humanities courses, you've probably seen several surveys from classmates coming out, and how do we navigate that and unify that system?
Do you think Google Forms could replace SurveyMonkey?
It could. It's just looking at how the data, like this really, the backstated things, we're really able to see a lot of good information, so we could look at that. It's been one of the trusts that we've used. Several departments have memberships, so yeah, we could definitely look at that.
So you said there is an up in the cost of SurveyMonkey?
Yeah, it was a few dollars for the annual
Okay,
membership.
so you weren't going to like a team membership?
No, we've got like one of the, I mean, it's not the highest, but we've got a good one that's sufficient for what we're using it for. But it did go up a few dollars. And it'll attach to some of the other things that we're doing as well. Okay?
Any questions?
Okay, this is going to be really brief. Okay? So I want to talk a little bit about the drama director position. So this is a staff position that is under my office. This changed a couple years ago. It was funded as part of the self-funding for the drama club, and then we had a conversation with the Senate Finance Committee and realized, hey, we're not supposed to be funding positions out of the SOAP. And it had been that way for years before I got here. So that's where we switched it to GAF funding. And I think hearing from the Art Club today, obviously you're here to become engineers and scientists. You're not here majoring in humanities and those kinds of things. But those activities are so critical to make you the best scientist and engineer that you can be. So whether you're attending an event, I mean, looking at the spread here in the Student Association, the music department is a perfect example of that with how much involvement we have in that program. So attending those events, participating in those things. With regards to the art club, really excited about that. Stephanie Lindsley, for example, wants more student artwork in this building. Okay, there's an avenue for that, potentially, if that organization gets involved. So same thing with the drama. As phenomenal as our music students are and all of our other humanities pieces, if you've ever been to a drama production, they're pretty fantastic. Okay? And every production I'm amazed at what they pull through of building their sets and memorizing scripts and all of that stuff. And they couldn't do that without a director. And Stephanie has been phenomenal. I need to do a better job of getting her in here to meet with people because it is a different position where she's just helping them during the semester with their production. but they really couldn't pull off these productions without her guidance. So it is a position that it doesn't change. The total request is $5,123. That covers 2 productions, okay? And on the outside of that, she's also helping them with their improv nights and other programs that aren't necessarily under those 2 drama productions. It is a non-benefited position, so we don't pay health insurance. But every single position here at the university has benefits with regards to workman's comp, those types of things. So that is where that $623 is from. Okay. Any questions about the drama directors? Okay. And with that, I'm going to invite the tri-chairs up to talk about the Rock Stage budget.
You just press the right button. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so I'm Shelby Guthrie,
I'm William Smith.
And I'm Marilla Meyer.
and we're the Rocker Days tri-chairs this year.
Alright, so a little about Rocker Days. It's homecoming for this school. This year will be on Sunday, September 22nd, and go till the next week, the 29th. And it is student-run organization overseen by SALC.
Why is Rocker Days important? Rocker Days is a really good place for student involvement on campus. I know as a freshman, it really made me feel solidified going through Rocker Days and made me really feel part of campus. And it's also a good way for seniors to kind of start thinking about their final goodbyes, like their senior hats and everything. And it's just a way for the school to get together and have some school spirit.
So looking more into the logistical side of things, we're requesting a little over $25,000 this year. That's a little less than last year, about $300 less.
We're requesting that much. That's
Oh, sorry, total budget, sorry, not requesting, sorry, total budget.
Surprise.
Got ahead of myself. But total budget is about $25,300. That's roughly $300 less than last year's. Of that, we have a little less than $8,000 worth of expected income. There's a couple different sources that comes from. The first is the president's office. They supply about $1,500 to fund faculty, or just faculty meals at the M-Week picnic on Friday. Our foundation account has roughly $5,000 in it, so that can be used for just various things in Rocker Days. And then, what's that? Sponsorship. Yep. And then the last one's with sponsorships. Those we get when we go downtown. We ask different companies for permission to paint their windows, and with that, we'll also ask for sponsorships if they'd like to sponsor the school. So that's about what we're aiming for again this coming year. So with that, our total cap request will be $17,407.99. And then kind of looking into some of our larger expenses. First, indoor candidates, we usually have an entertainer, whether it be a comedian like we did last year, or a hypnotist, something along those lines. And that's usually about $4,000. That covers their flight to Rapid City, their housing in a hotel, and then the entertainment itself. This year, we're going to do something a little different, try and look for local entertainment, one that could possibly cut costs, and also promote the local community of Rapid City and some different spectacular entertainers in the community itself. Armadillos, not much for change there. 700 students is what we'll fund at $4 a piece to give the $2,800. Wednesday, the on-campus movie, that's going to be a change from last year. We usually did the Elk Cedar movie, and we funded about 150 students. This way, we can both, one, cut costs, two, we can bring more students in, hopefully, since it's on campus. They don't have to travel downtown, try to find parking, anything like that. Then we can also supply different snacks, refreshments, and everything for a lot cheaper of a price. That $1,000 is a little higher because we have two different companies that we go through for the copyright on the movie, just to make sure that we can actually present it on campus. The one company does about $500 for a movie, and the other one's $1,000. It just kind of depends on what movie we show. Then the other two, just the senior plaque and the food for end-day picnic, our values that we took from last year. There's no significant changes with those. So.
And then what's new? we're gonna do the on-campus movie, and what's different about that is instead, like you said, holding it at the Elks, we'll hold it in the gym in the King Center. We'll be able to project it on the screen, and then we're gonna try and make it kind of like a drive-in feel, so you'll be able to bring blankets or lawn chairs, and really try and bring it closer to campus. And then we're gonna do a coronation night competition. This is still in the woodworks, mind you. We're gonna try and do either department-wise or like grade-wise, like minute-to-minute games to get more people showing up for coronation. And then after that's done, head on down to the king and queen and then burning of letters. And then Pinker Run, it's gonna be a poker run around Rapid City on Saturday, the game day. It'll be done before the game starts, so everyone will have fun with that. And then tailgating up top. We're actually a part of a steering committee as well to try and get more alumni to get back to Rocker Days. And what this is we take over the C ramp and we could potentially have like an organization fair and maybe a 21 plus space where there could be like live music, beer tasting, stuff like that, just to try and make it more fun for everyone involved. And any questions?
Could you tell me a little bit more about the Pinker Run?
Yeah, so it's through Theta Town. It's breast cancer awareness. All of the funds, proceeds go towards that. It'll be through the Black Hills, so we'll start that morning. And they'll just go around the Black Hills. Motorcycles will go one way, cars will go the other.
You stop at certain locations, and I think what they're gonna do is they're gonna have a stamp. So like everywhere you go, they'll stamp the location, and then
the winner, they have prizes all set up. Yeah, they've been talking to the president's office about that, just trying to get those things together. But yeah, it'll kind of be a part of homecoming week just because it's on the same day. A different crowd around too.
I believe that was started in memory of a student's mother.
Yeah.
Who passed away from cancer.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Rocker Days?
Not a question, just I saw you guys put the Student Association signs, paint the town picture up there.
We're not schmoozing.
Do you guys spend all of your foundation account money every year?
Generally, it's just kind of there for emergency funds. Last year they didn't use it much, and it just kind of something that keeps collecting. And if we need it, we can use it. If not, it's there for people next year in case they run into any hard situations.
Yeah, and I would just quickly speak on it. Obviously, we don't want to deplete that, just so that we have a program. When you're looking at a week of programming, when you look at that budget, and those bigger items between the picnic and the senior plaque really wipes a lot of that gap portion of the budget away. So in order to build on programs, it's there. But obviously, as we're looking at expanding this with a bigger community, you may see more of that really step down this year, just to make those programs happen.
All right, well, thank you guys.
So I handed out some, for you that went to Shed, I handed out the reimbursement papers. Can you send that back to me if you signed it? Also, I sent around the Nostalgia Night runners sign-up sheet. Where's that at?
It's getting over there. Alright, well, now we'll move on to unfinished business. We got resolution 19-010, Applied Biological Science Professional Society.
What?
It says what?
This is Sunday, 2:20, and today is 2:20.
Sorry, it's this Sunday.
Where this one was read last meeting, ready for
Oh, no, this one hasn't been.
Oh, this one was read? Oh, cool.
Or, no, sorry, yeah. Yes, it has been read, so no, you do not. Is there any discussion on this resolution?
Motion
Motion to approve.
Alright, we have a motion approved by Senator Douglas, seconded by Senator White. Any discussion on that motion? Alright, we'll move to a roll call vote. Or, all those in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Move to a roll call vote. You have. Oh, yeah, that's
Okay.
alright.
Blau. Aye. Crossbow.
Aye.
Dolly. Aye. Duplex.
Aye.
Grossi. Okay. Guthrie. Aye. Hone. Aye. Camera. Aye. Kiefer.
Aye.
Kleintasser.
Aye.
Not. Real. Aye. Rogers. Aye. Tellinghusen.
Aye.
Sorrow.
Aye.
Thielen. Aye. Veit.
Aye.
Waugh.
Aye.
Proxy Marshall.
Aye.
Heading. Aye. Pinto.
Aye.
Sharma. Aye. And West.
Aye.
So do I just?
Resolution passes. Moving on, we've got, what's next? Resolution 19-011, active mindset active.
Overbill Russell, resolution number 19-001, read on 13th February 2019, originated by the Finance Committee, presented by myself. Second reading, not reading the rest.
Discussion on this resolution. $600 allocation to active minds. Senator Long.
I'll move to approve.
Alright, Senator Long motion to approve the resolution, seconded by Senator Henning. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Roll call vote.
Blau. Aye. Proxy Vogel.
Aye.
Dolly. Aye. Duplex.
Aye.
Grossi.
Aye.
Guthrie. Aye. Hone.
Aye.
Camera. Aye. Kiefer.
Aye.
Kleintasser.
Aye.
Not. Real. Rogers. Aye. Tellinghusen.
Aye.
Pizarro.
Aye.
Thielen. Aye. Veit.
Aye.
Waugh.
Aye.
Neville. Or sorry, Proxy Marshall.
Aye.
Heading. Aye. Pinto.
Aye.
Sharma. West.
Aye.
Alright, resolution passes. Before we move on to resolution 19-012, I have an exam at 6, so by personal privilege, take it. Yeah, go ahead. So, yes, anyways, if you guys have any questions for me or anything, send me an email, and Caitlin has my report, so. With that. Active president. Safety walk is also tonight. I only got one person saying they can go.
Go to what?
Safety walk tonight, right after this. So is there anybody else that can go?
I'd be there.
Yeah.
I'll probably
Yep. It would be good to have like, roughly like,
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what the plan is, but I know in terms of already having to do that, I guess that depends on how many show up.
20, 30 minutes.
I've never done it before. Startup facilities, so we have facilities around the quality.
So we're on resolution 19-012, safety on campus.
Alright, so Overbill Russell, resolution 19-S012, originated by Senator Roeder, presented originally by Senator Roeder. Seeing as this is the second reading, I will not be reading it again.
Is there any discussion on motion? Yes. Okay. Senator Payne. that we agreed to table this last week.
Okay,
Since you have, if you're presenting them.
yeah. So Senate Bill 122 did fail, I believe, yesterday on the Senate floor, correct? So the motion was to table it until there was a vote on 122, so therefore that's why we're discussing it.
Senator Duffy.
Since we amended it last week, wouldn't this make this a new first reading?
Did we amend it?
We did.
It was,
We did. No,
Oh,
we
it's just
didn't.
table.
Yeah.
Senator West.
Make a motion to approve.
Seconded by Senator Wright. Is there any discussion on that motion?
I think since we tabled it, like kind of some, like discussion last week until SB 122 went through, I think we should have more discussion on this.
Yes.
I don't think we should move to approve right away.
Senator Raleigh.
I had a lot of constituents that have problems with this, so I would like to more time to talk with them about it personally.
Is there any more discussion on
No.
on the motion to approve?
Can I ask that he retract his motion?
I mean, are we able to vote on it this week?
Yes. So,
Let's,
you've been invited to retract your motion.
let's just do the vote and see what people say.
So, the motion still stands. Is there any further discussion?
So your motion is that we would vote on this, but what if we vote no against it and it's just done?
Then we discuss it, right?
No.
No.
That's what we're gonna do
right now, it's
for this bill. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, if we vote for the bill, we kill it.
Yeah, clarification, if this motion passes, we will move into a roll call vote on this resolution. Senator Duffy.
I do apologize that you have to deal with this. It's quite complicated, but is there any possibility, because I also strongly feel that we should not be voting on this right now, is it possible for me to make a motion that like nullifies that motion?
No.
I don't know, I don't know.
I'm gonna retract my motion. That's in
Okay.
the interest of the group, because it seems like nobody wants
Motion
to
has
vote
been
right now.
retracted, so is there any discussion on the resolution? Senator Bud.
I was just wondering if there's, I know we've polled the students like endlessly, but I feel like this is something that we should get student opinion on first and like quantitative data on before we move this forward.
Senator Tornay.
I had one of my constituents, a senior, approach me in the hallway minutes before this meeting started. She specifically voiced his concerns about this resolution, more specifically on, he said he had a problem with the first two lines of it. The lines, the student body has expressed concern about their safety on and around campus and allowing for concealed carry or firearms to suppress this concern. Though that was what he talked to me about. He expressed that he and the people that he has talked with and he in his circle believe this is a fallacy. This isn't my personal opinion, but this is what what the constituents have come forward to talk to me about. And I can see both sides. I don't want to meet a generalist.
Senator Bud.
I agree with Senator Light. We have polled students endlessly, but I feel like if we're gonna say that the student body has expressed concern, then we need more accurate data. I feel like the first poll was very weirdly worded and biased, and then the other poll was about 122 specifically, and we haven't really had like a real, I think, a real good poll about the data.
Senator Duffy.
And Senator Wright retract his second.
We already retracted.
Oh, it's already retracted.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, this is discussion on that.
I've been on that, sorry.
Sorry, Senator
So just following what Senator Valley was saying, I think there was a point last semester or maybe the beginning of the semester where there was an interest in having another survey where it was more biased wording to it. But if I remember correctly, it failed to proceed. I don't remember why, but I think the idea was discarded.
I think you're talking about when the student federation was going to do one, and then they decided that they didn't want to. Or they just weren't going to make questions or something to do it.
So following up with that, would it be possible for us then to do a survey in our campus that we find people in student senate, or we just have a committee in campus or something like that where we have people there, like it's more balanced between people that want constitutional carry and people that do not want, so you can make a survey where it's unbiased and have a better wording to it. I think that's more important to get student opinion than to be based on the other survey, personally.
Senator Bob.
Can I move to table this motion until we get the definitive student body opinion?
There's a motion on the table to table, seconded by Senator Kiefer. Any discussion on this motion? Senator Wright.
I would like to know before we table it, what are we going to do? Like come up with some kind of a plan on how we're going to get student feedback on this issue before, or in order to vote on it at some point.
Senator Wong.
Just one thing I want to say on that motion too is I feel like we should have a more concrete timeline for how long we're going to table instead of when we have definitive student feedback. I feel like we need a set time of 2 weeks, something like that for this motion.
Senator
Yeah, if we're not careful, this could just sit on the table until we have new Senate. And so,
Senator Scott.
So would it be possible for us to create a committee that could work on a survey for that? I don't know how this works exactly.
I assume I could be wrong if anyone knows the Constitution better than I do. An ad hoc committee can be created at any time for anything, but this is also originated out of GR, so I assume GR. Oh, sorry, no, it's not. It's not. Never mind. Just kidding. So yes, that is possible.
So would there be interest from people here to form a committee, assemble?
Senator Wong.
Well, if we do want GR views, this is something I can discuss with Mark a little more too, where we can decide if this is something we would want to pursue as a committee. We can just take that on our workload.
So there's still a motion on the table to table. Senator Wong.
Can I rephrase that motion to table it until government, oh, I have to retract it, or can I just rephrase it, or?
You can amend your.
May I amend my motion to state that we will table this resolution until governmental relations comes up with definitive answers?
We'd like to
Is
see
there a second? Okay, Senator, approximately 2 weeks. Marshall, okay, yes. Senator Wong.
So I guess the way I was thinking we could word it is until there is a decision made on who will pursue further, I guess, investigation on the issue. Pretty good way to word it, I think.
Senator Wright.
That still leaves the option open for nobody to, in GR, to pursue it. Not that I think Mark would leave it just sitting, but I think maybe if we said 3 weeks from now, we're gonna hear it, whatever data GR or Mark has collected at that point, you know, we'll deliberate on this bill at that time.
Senator Duffy. Spring break does fall within that 3-week time limit, so that does shorten it by a week, just to be thinking about that. And then people are also not really paying attention before and after for a couple days. Like to make that and then, I don't know. Would this go through GR? Anyone have, like, because like, can I just get a quick question of what the biases are on the GR committee? Like, because I think that's very important when
with the last survey. Senator Kiefer.
Yeah, I think since this bill is coming from Mark, I don't think we should be in control of who, or the survey itself. I think a separate ad hoc committee would probably be beneficial for this, some that's made up of people from GR or other committees, but not Mark, since he did create this bill and he has an inherent bias to pass it. So, I just want to throw that out there.
Senator Wong.
I will say too, if this is something if GR does work on it, we'd likely be doing in our committee meetings. So if anybody, we'll let you know when we're working on this survey most likely. And if anybody wants to have their input heard or wants to tell their constituents about this, then we would be more than open to that feedback. And just one thing I will say is, Mark doesn't necessarily have a strong bias on this. It's just, this was kind of something we proposed in response to our feedback that we want that institutional control from the debate on 122. That's kind of more where this originated.
Senator Blau.
Should I retract my motion?
It's up to you.
So then we can discuss, well, don't you have to move to make an ad hoc committee? So if we're going to base it off the ad hoc committee, should I retract that motion so we can move to make an ad hoc committee?
Like, I'm not but yes.
I will retract my motion.
Alright, yeah. Senator Real.
I think if we are to make an ad hoc committee for this, it should be also constituted of students, not just student senators here. Because I think a lot of people that are passionate about it will jump on this if they actually really want their voice to be heard, and they should be part of that.
Senator Sodom.
So I think it would be better to go as an ad hoc committee just because of how this proposal was phrased, or the solution was phrased. I think there's bias to it, and I think that kind of shows that Mark is a little bit biased because of the wording of that second phrase. Personally, I see that. I think it would be more interesting if we do it as an ad hoc committee. But regarding adding like more students that are out of Senate, I think everybody here chose to be in Senate because they have a strong opinion about things and they want to enforce changes. So I think if it was up to the people, if there are people out there that would be interested in like changing things on campus, then they would have joined Senate for that. That's how I see it.
Senator Mike.
I actually am against the idea of creating an ad hoc for this. I think the GR is perfectly capable of coming up with a survey, and we can review said survey as a Senate prior to it being sent to all students. I think that keeps things more in-house, and ultimately, you know, I think adding on to what Tesaro was saying was just about how student senators chose to be here, and we all, you know, feel passionately or have an opinion on this issue and want to do it right.
Senator
As a reminder, Senate is an elected position. We had some of the highest turnout in terms of people wishing to join this organization last year, which I think shows that students are involved. We are the ones who are lucky and allowed to represent. I think that our job is to represent students, and if there are students who want to join this committee, that there should be absolutely no reason that they should not be on the committee. When it comes to whether a committee should be in charge of this, my answer would be why not? I don't see it. There's absolute, to me, I see absolutely no reason to keep it in-house. Nothing better comes from restricting people's voice in an issue like this. So that would be my.
If people are kind of uncomfortable with GR taking it over, I think PR would be able to take it over too. I don't know.
GR and PR.
Just because we aren't the ones who originated from it, and I personally don't have a bias in how this turns out, but I know it's up to you guys. I just throw that offer out.
Senator Blau.
Would it be possible to create an ad hoc committee with one representative from the Constitution, Governmental Relations, Public Relations, and Student Affairs, and then have it open to any student that wants to be involved?
Is that
Yes. I mean, sure, you can do that. I don't think there's any reason that we need one from every committee because I don't think that we need like equal representation from like opposite institution versus, like we got placed in those because those were areas of interest. I think people who care about this issue should be involved.
Senator Wall.
So I guess my main concern with just the ad hoc committee and everything is how is this going to end up working out the timeline for us? Because end of term is, I don't remember exactly, but I know it's towards the beginning of April. So we're going to be on a pretty short timeline that we establish this committee, get students who want to be on it, and then also getting the survey out, the feedback gathered, and then voting on this resolution before we have the turnover. That's just my main concern with doing ad hoc committee.
Senator, since like from past experience as GR chair, that this upcoming, like right after spring break, it's going to be like presidential elections. GR's going to have a lot on their plate with the elections coming up, so I'm thinking the time allocation wise, it might be smarter for PR or another committee to do if it's going to stay in-house.
Alright, Senator West.
There's also the possibility of, of asking for a new bill or proposing an amendment that rather than stating, that we be for or against one side, rather asking administration to relook at this policy along with the Board of Regents, because this is something that people want to see changed some way or another, but I think we need to show that we at least want them to look it over so they also have, and I think that's important to get going sooner than later, and that was what Mark stressed last week, that we want the conversation going up with them as well, not just in this room, because we all know the ideas that are going around. So maybe, I don't know if we could, we have to look at this to see if we can even amend it like that, otherwise it might have to be a new bill next week. To just ask for a conversation rather than for or against something. That's all.
I'd like to make a motion to create an ad hoc committee for polling for this bill, spearheaded by PR and open to student involvement.
There's a motion on the table from Senator Wright to create an ad hoc committee in regards to this bill, spearheaded by PR and open to campus, students on campus. Is there seconded by Senator Tesoro? Is there any discussion on that motion? Senator Tesoro.
So if the purpose of this ad hoc committee is to provide an unbiased,
yes,
right? So how would we control how many people there are like pro or against like gun student carrying campus? Because we cannot ask, hey, are you okay? Like, are you pro? So then I already have 5 people, so you can't tell me.
I still like.
I don't know any ideas.
Senator Wall.
Actually, I'll let Senator.
Okay. I still like the idea of reviewing the questions as a Senate before we send out the survey.
And that issue is something, we actually discussed this a little bit at SHED too, is if you're creating a committee like this, it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be hard and almost inherently biased to try to restrict who can and cannot be on the committee because of this bias. So I think in the end we want to try to do something about that, but I don't know how feasible that is necessarily, just because otherwise it can seem like we're kind of controlling the committee to be our own bias, I guess.
And one of the biggest things about this, and the best way to control it, is having everyone on the ad hoc recognize their own bias that they have and try to do something about it. Just know that you have this bias and try to maybe counteract it or do something about that. That's probably the most feasible way to do it, but I recognize that that's really hard to do. So that's probably the only feasible way that I can think of how we could address that problem.
Sort of a point of information. As far as I can tell, there needs to be no motion for an ad hoc committee. The president has the ability to establish ad hoc committees, which means Caitlin has the ability to act. Which we are discussing the motion to have an ad hoc, so we may want to remove that. Ultimately, what we need to figure out is what we want to do with this bill, right? And I know that that relates to the ad hoc, but if we decide that we want to go that route, then ultimately what we need to do is either come to a vote and put this bill down for the time being, or amend it to be such, or table it
and then pursue an alternative route for the time being. But that would be, sort of my recommendations.
So with that knowledge, but invested in me for this next hour, I will establish an ad hoc committee to investigate this into
So I trust you, so I'll retract my motion.
That being said, Senator Campbell, given your previous experience, do I take names to be on that committee now?
I would.
Okay. Let me pull. Okay. Okay. Can I get a show of hands who would be interested in being on this? Okay, so there's now an ad hoc committee to investigate this further. If you guys can figure out, Senator.
As a recommendation, I would tentatively put Jake and/or Grant in charge of that committee until they further delegate that.
Senator Waugh.
So then with that information, I'm gonna move to table this bill for 3 weeks. And then if we need to table it further after that.
Seconded by Senator Tillman. Is there any discussion on the motion to table? Senator Ruffin.
So just to clarify, that's 3 weeks including spring break, because spring break is from the 2nd to the 9th.
Right, this would be the week after spring
So
break.
this would be the 6th is when we see this bill.
That would be the
13th.
Is the 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion on the motion to table? Senator.
Was it seconded?
It was
Oh.
seconded. Seeing no further discussion, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of tabling this bill for 3 weeks, say by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes. This table,
Okay. Overfill the Russell resolution number 19S013, read the 19th of February, 20th of February, I will amend that. 2019, originated by the Constitution Committee, presented by myself. Whereas adequate interest has been expressed to students wishing to form an organization, SD Minds Art Club, and whereas there are currently no organizations that overlap this interest, and whereas a constitution has been constructed and reviewed for said club, and therefore be it resolved by a majority vote of the Student Senate and the signature of the Student Association President that the Constitution for SD Minds Art Club be approved, allowing for formal recognition.
is there any discussion on this resolution? Senator Guthrie.
I was just curious, they said they've been like meeting since like last semester. Is that like a conflict?
I think we could talk about it.
I told Summer, I mean, not all things that students are interested in on campus are like recognized groups. Like I think students could share an interest in doing some things together. I think it's finding out that point of when did they decide that they wanted to reach formal recognition, and then that's where those 2 meetings would come into play. I don't know.
And for what it's worth, I also don't know how, I don't think that there are there's nothing in place that really we punish people for having more meetings than that. If it became a problem, we would address that. But sometimes it takes a little while to get off the ground.
Senator
Is this club in any way overlapping interest with like other art club, like drama club?
Senator Rogers.
We have not seen it overlap anything. The only thing now is that, like, literally just last week, we had a new organization come in for STEAM, which is STEM, including arts. And they seem like a more like core version of the art. Like they'll go and they'll do more blacksmithing stuff, and they'll do like glass blowing stuff. So I wonder if they can do a lot more collaboration. But I still think that there's not enough overlap for us to stop both. And we'll see them come in next week.
we'll see this resolution next week.
Ms. Hart.
Overturn Russell, resolution number 19 as open routine, 28 February 2019. Originated by the Finance Committee, presented by myself, whereas Corey Headley, Director of the Student Activities and Leadership Center, has approached the Finance Committee with a supplemental request for funds to provide an app guidebook for students and parents to use during fall and spring orientation, and noting student feedback from orientation requested an app to use during orientation. And whereas the appropriate paperwork has been filled with the Finance Committee, and whereas the Finance Committee has deemed $2,000 as an appropriate amount to allocate, and noting these funds will only cover 1 year of the use of the app, and therefore be resolved by a majority vote of the Student Senate and signature of the Student Association President that $2,000 be allocated from the self-reverted funds account for SA003 to activities, Student Activities and Leadership Center to purchase guidebook for orientation.
So just a little explanation on this. Originally, Corey requested to pay for a contract for 3 years, and the Finance Committee decided that we would try 1 year, which is where the $2,000 is coming from, and then relook at it again next spring after it's gone through 2 orientation processes to kind of evaluate if there's anything that needs to change with it. And I'm sure Corey has more.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. This is through, we were talking about assessment, we assess orientation at the end. While we're in a reorientation process, you're getting a lot of information, and so the request is we're trying to streamline things as have things in the palm of their hands. And so this will cover both transfer, new student orientation, as well as international orientation. All their schedules will be there, and it'll also cover parent and family orientation, so parents can see where students are in session so that they can kind of navigate and move throughout the day, but then their schedule is also on there. And as much as we try to make sure everything's perfect for the day, something comes up and things have to change. This app allows us, if we have to change a room location or something happens, we can send immediate notifications to folks so that they're out there. So, yeah, I won't go.
Is there any further discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, we will move on to open discussion.
All right, so to kind of follow up on the issue raised a few weeks ago regarding American Welding Society's request for $4,000 for that mobile ventilation system. I was down there last Friday to kind of catch up with them as far as like the conflicting reports from Blacksmithing Club and the Welding Society as far as ventilation being good in the building. And as far as that goes, the blacksmithing area is like a different section of the foundry. And ventilation for the stuff used for that, as far as the electric furnace, it's good. But in the actual welding shop, the welding side, the ventilation has been out for months. And it's been raised to, I was talking with Cassidy Kitzmiller, she's the current president of the American Welding Society, and she has tried to get it fixed for months, as far as talking to the department and stuff, and nothing has came of it. So she wouldn't necessarily, the club wouldn't necessarily need the $4,000 for the mobile ventilator, but they need some sort of money, or at least something on those lines to get the current ventilation system fixed, because at the current time it's just not safe.
Has she talked to facilities at all, or Jeremy Roberts about that?
I'm under the impression that she has. She had mentioned talking to Dr. Westbad, the advisor of the American Welding Society. So.
Senator West.
I guess unless there's any other discussion on that, thanks for that. But I guess to change, speaking of surveying out people, the Hell of a Night 2019 survey went out for the concert committee that will be meeting next week at 1 p.m. Probably in Sega. But if you're still interested in that, please let me know. I will be emailing anybody who did put their info in on the survey. We have 202 responses. It was put out today at 1:30, so we'll be looking at those responses next week and putting people in positions to decide on what we're going to be doing. Yeah. Personal.
So I just had a question for both Corey and Dean Mann. So since House Bill 1087 did pass with the new free speech requirements, is that going to change anything for our policies on campus that we're moving to, or are we going to have to redo some of that?
It passed the House, but
Yeah.
did it
Or I
pass
guess
the Senate?
it hasn't passed the Senate.
So we
I
have to
forgot
wait
about
and
that.
see
Yeah.
what Senate, and we're staying really open to that. We've been updating those policies. We're in the 1 month read. And did Jake get those forwarded out to you? Yeah, okay, so it's that policy, so we'll be looking at that, and we'll also visit with Nate Lucas at the board, so that we get everything in there before final vote.
Okay.
And it was, first read in Senate was today, and it was referred to Senate State Affairs, so that's where that it is at this point.
Just as a heads up, there can be no more motions because we have one quorum. There shouldn't be any necessary.
We've been looking on the FI for resolution S12, and we can't find it. Anybody know where that would possibly be? It's not under current meeting and it's not under resolution.
Which one?
The safety on campus, 19S12.
Pull it up on there and see
Let's
if
talk about
it's
that
the
discussion
same.
during. Okay, so kind of expanding on what I made before. Another thing I'd like to bring to the Senate's attention is the fact that the Foundry itself does not have a safety officer such as the Cat Lab, and along with that does not have policies for the various equipment there. And this problem's been there for years and stuff, and it's a matter of that department not having the money to hire someone to manage safety. But along with that, there needs to be some sort of other. I feel like we need to start looking to some other method of enforcing safety in the Foundry, because I almost implore any of you here to go down there and take a look sometime to kind of see the state of it currently. So.
I know Dr. Kirk does a lot of projects regarding safety on campus, and maybe if we pointed it out to him, maybe one of his engineering classes could go take a look and maybe at least institute some policies or try to come up with some ideas for creating a safer environment.
Senator, I guess I wonder if it could be almost like, I know money is a big problem for allocation, like people that are actually qualified for that, so maybe thinking out is maybe a student derived thing could be a thing for graduates or something.
Cassidy, the American Women's Society president, she had mentioned her interest in getting together a student safety officer to be shared between the Blacksmithing Club and the American Women's Society. That would at least fix it for when the two clubs are operating within that space. But it's some open building as far as there's a lot of other groups in there that aren't, I guess, official groups or organizations in which it cannot be regulated. So it was that to think about as well. So.
Well, I'm always worried about safety. I'm sitting here drafting a note to Dr. West and Geraldine Roberts, just asking about it. And should they talk to Cassidy?
I talked to Cassidy, yes.
But should Dr. West and Geraldine, should I include on here?
I'd say Cassidy for sure, and maybe I'd say Isaac from the Blacksmithing Club. I haven't had a chance to talk with him yet because he was gone this last Friday.
Okay, but I don't want to blindside him
Yes,
either.
understand.
I'll start with this and then we'll, so I won't go to Cassidy
this is more of an announcement, but just in case we have to leave before it gets to that point, just reminder that the safety walk is at 7, we're meeting at facilities. But,
seeing no other items, okay, for open discussion, to CFO report.
Alright, so we have the orientation supplemental request that we'll vote on next week. Tomorrow, the SOAP review committee is meeting at 6, and so you guys should have received an email about that if you're on that committee. And if you're on that committee and you cannot make it, and you have not let me know, please let me know before noon tomorrow, just so I have an idea of who's gonna be there. And then again, if you're interested in this committee, please email me or talk to me. I'd love to have more people on here, get more input. Next week, we're gonna have athletics and intramurals present their GAF budget. Unfortunately, they sent me their PowerPoint today, and there wasn't enough time for me to ask for their budget for the meeting. So we can look at their PowerPoint if you'd like, but I'm not sure how productive that will be. So otherwise, when I get their budget before next week, I'll just have it emailed out to the whole Senate. And I encourage everyone to look at it and ask the finance committee any questions that you may have. Or have any questions for Joel. Oh, I guess I have grants too. Okay, so this is great. Am I allowed to just go right into this too? Okay. So it says, those who wish to shed, if you give me, Grant, or Jake your receipts, not Grant or Jake, not me, your receipts, we will get them in for reimbursement. There is a Cracker Barrel this weekend at Western Dakota Tech in their vet center. It has been added to the calendar. Nostalgia Night Runners are needed this weekend on Sunday. We need 5 to 7 senators to show up at the Elks Theater by 6:50. Where is that sheet? Okay, so we have 2. We need 3 to several more. Math is hard right now. You'll meet in the lobby at the Elks Theater, and then anyone who wants to stay and watch the movies is welcome to. So we have 3 now.
Oh, sorry, Senator Rogers, it's really easy to do, show up, help run, dips either like to the balcony from the front or like to the main floor for like 5 minutes maybe, and then you get out and watching it.
Has this made it all the way around?
I was just not.
Okay, so we need 2 more. Time's it up?
6.
Okay. We need at least 1 more. We're doing this as a fundraiser for the library, correct me if I'm wrong, and then do we get anything back for student centers or just the library?
Talking about student senate, I think we did something, because I know that
Oh, we did, yeah, but, yeah, so, Senator Waugh.
You can sign me up.
Thank you.
You said you meet there at 6:50?
Yes, the Elks Theater at 6:50, meet in the lobby, and then you're welcome to stay for the movie once it's done with that. And then it says the Sustainability and Renewable Energy Committee is getting kick-started again, and then Grant is looking for senators that may want to get involved in this committee. He's also looking for students. I was already on that committee. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have to talk to Grant. So at our meeting with President Rankin today, it sounded like this was a committee that quit kind of just being a committee like 4 or 5 years ago. They just kind of didn't do anything, so I'm not sure if that's the same one. They just don't meet or meet every once in a while, but it sounded like something that was different. So if you're interested, contact Grant. That's the end of his report.
Moving on to President's report. So I have Jake's report. First off, there are 2 muffins baking in the oven. One muffin says to the other, "Phew, it's getting hot in here," or is it just me? The other muffin says, "Ah, a talking muffin. Say this joke with gusto."
Just for 1 second, you guys started with.
Next, anyone who signed up for the PDI conference this Saturday, send Jake an email that says you signed up, so that Senate can cover you. So far, Jake doesn't know of any petitions being turned in for SA president and vice president, so please encourage people to take his job. He's looking forward to Senate bonding on Friday night, and then if you could get thoughts on the policy documents that he sent you from the university cabinet. And if you don't want to share them now, if you have a strong opinion, email it. Put it in writing and email it to him. But if there's any opinions that want to be shared now. That is all. So, moving on then to graduate senator report.
So, Senator Pinto's feeling lazy today, so I'm gonna read his report for him. Graduate Student Society held, apparently graduate students, their handwriting now, I gotta tell you. Graduate Student Society held an academic writing session today. Everyone who attended were entered into a thesis paper raffle. Is there anything else I missed?
Are there any questions for the graduate? Yes, Senator Roll.
What is a thesis paper raffle?
It's basically they give out free a ream of paper.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. I was just curious.
Are there any other questions for graduate senator? Moving on to international senator report. Did Anushka give a report to anyone? Okay. Cool.
Thanks,
moving on then to committee reports. Constitution.
During our last meeting, we are looking over ping pong and we are the changes to constitution. And then we have yet to meet with Justin for the we are the change. He happened to miss the meeting and we're going to try to figure out how to meet with him soon. And then, like I said before, we met with Steve last week Thursday, and they sound really excited, very active, and they will be presenting next week. Other than that, unless anybody has anything else?
Any questions for Constitution? Seeing none, moving on to governmental relations.
All right. So, like Caitlin said in Jake's report, the elections for president and vice president are coming up March 13th. Petitions are due next Friday, and right now we're hoping to have a debate that week we get back. It's going to be a little tough since it's right when we get back from spring break, but hopefully we'll get a decent turnout for that. Right now we're also working on fine-tuning the Senate info sheet, just making sure that looks good and that we have that available as a resource. Then also the petitions for the class elections are going to open up soon, and a question I have is, in the Constitution, it says that each year the date for the elections will be set by the Student Association the year before. Was there ever anything last year that set the date of the elections for this year that went through? I'm going to guess that's a no.
I wasn't sure.
Senator Real, I wrote about it in my committee report, my transition report to Mark, because that's currently like after, that's like the next person, so I guess I think
Okay.
it was in there, so.
All right. So that's something we'll figure out at our next meeting then. And then otherwise, if there aren't any questions, end the report.
I have a question for VR. Where are the petitions for president and vice president? Because even our current vice president wasn't able to find them. And so they should be pretty prominently displayed if we want to have involvement. So if we could also get those for student affairs to put them out as Beer Friday, but also maybe having them next to the comment box on the table outside of the Senate office. That would be great. Are they printed?
I'm not sure about that. I'll email Margaret. So
Okay. So they would have to get it back to me. Right, so we should have.
Yep, we'll get some.
Any other questions for GR? Seeing none, we will move on to PR.
Alright, our senator of the week is Senator Penny. Our art spotlight is gonna be Physics Club. And don't forget Senate bonding is this Friday. We set the time from 6 to 8. It'll be downstairs in the game room. Please bring snacks. We're probably not gonna do a potluck, so keep yourselves. And bring any games you wanna play. Josh is bringing his Switch to hook up to the TV, so get lit.
Any questions for PR? Seeing none, we're gonna go back to me for student affairs. So our student affairs committee meeting was rescheduled to Friday for this week, due to conflicts. There's Spirit Friday sign up going around. I don't know. Senator Campbell, is it right next to you? I'll tell you to your left.
Spirit Friday?
Yeah.
Garrett Kiefer signed up.
Cool.
That is
Does
it.
that go around because it started there?
It started here, going which direction?
This way. So we're just gonna do, we would like to put presidential petitions, maybe Senate information sheet, if that is done out there to start encouraging for general elections as well. If it's not, that's fine.
I think we're still working on the general sheet.
Okay, so we'll just have petitions and whatever from the weekly WhatsApp we need. And then it's just gonna be like a short quiz about the major South Dakota representatives, governmental representatives, so governor, senators, representative. So hopefully there's a lot of people that know these things. So other than that, is there any questions for students?
Do you wanna like advertise that ad hoc committee potentially?
We can do that. Any other questions for student affairs? Okay, seeing none, did any campus or ad hoc committees meet this week? Senator Campbell.
Not a meeting, but more of an announcement. I spoke to you guys about this last semester. Hopefully you kind of remember about the IDI. The career or the Office of Multicultural Affairs and the Inclusion Committee have been working hard. They've done this previously, rolling it out to campus. It basically it's sort of a not an assessment, but it's just sort of a gauge of where our campus is when it comes to respecting and accepting other cultures and identifying your own culture. So they will be doing this again. What they are hoping to do is the rollout date has been moved from March 18th to March 29th, and they were hoping at some point to come in and speak to the Senate. Either we would be speaking for them, or they would come in and speak. I'll talk to Jake about that, but just so you guys are aware, if you hear anything about it, please try to be supportive or at least get more information about it. We'll be talking about what the IDI is, why it's important to our campus, and then probably an ask for some sort of support, be it resolution or otherwise. Timeline, we'll have to see what that looks like. But just so you guys are aware, and then you can encourage students to do the same. Any questions on that? Okay.
Any other comments or upcoming Senate business? There's the Cracker Barrel on Saturday. Senate bonding on Friday.
So Purdue committee tomorrow night at 6.
Any other upcoming business?
Couple quick announcements. PI conference, again, Jake said he would sponsor. If you haven't filled a form out to attend and you're interested, please get that done. That form will be live until 9 p.m. tonight. So it's still space for you there. And then I know you guys sent a bonding on Friday, but Friday is also Grubby's birthday. So if you want to take a break at the halftime of the men's game, cake and ice cream from ACS will be given out up at the King Center. So check that out.
Are there any announcements?
Well, since the bill isn't here, according to my watch, Secret Santa is coming up pretty soon. And only 74 days for graduation.
So I have one announcement. The the Molly Moore from Admissions reached out to me. We're significantly up in our women applications for next fall, and they want to capitalize on this. We're making calls starting tonight and going tonight, tomorrow, and then Monday and Tuesday of next week. So if any women senators are interested in making calls to to recruit prospective women students, please talk to me after the meeting. We need 3 people on Tuesday, next Tuesday, from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. and send something funded by admissions. So definitely let me know. You don't have to be a woman senator, but yeah. So Senator Blunt.
You have to be there the whole time.
Talk to me. Senator Watt.
I move to adjourn.
Seconded by Senator Pinto. All those in favor of adjourning, say by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Okay, so how many people?
Wow.
Wow.
I will be walking over to the facility in like 5 minutes.
We have to run.
No, I don't have my pen.
I'm going. I'm the only one who actually told them that I was going. At everyone. I'm good at making amends. You're the damn one. Take my trash. Take my trash.
Yes, we do. You know we do. I'm doing this for you, Shelby. It's our life.
No, okay, fine.
Can I try
Yeah, true. See you. Have fun. Sorry, nobody here tonight.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Like, this is why it's important to always watch the
I learned that right.
Right, so it doesn't.
Cool, okay.
I learned that right. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, that's
You don't want to know about it.
When I think about you, Betsy.
Wait for me.
Just kidding. Okay, let me take my stuff down.
I learned once how to sponge board super
Yeah, I just didn't want to make sure.
Thanks for
Yeah, I know.
Over and over and over.
Shelby said she'd go. And Rosie.
What do you mean?
Rosie said she'd go to email. I was like, hey, good. I'm not sure about that anymore. Aaron, were you going or do you have something?
I'm going, well,
Yeah.
oh no, I do have stuff that well, one of the agents is retiring.
Yeah.
So we probably get together.
No, it's just like. I think it was me. I've never done such a thing. I know, but I was like, what the fuck? I didn't do that shit. I was like, what are you doing?
I didn't even realize. You stood up so much.
Oh, hi, I was just looking.
Yeah, no, it's like,
So I was just saying, students.
Yeah. I'm going this way. Yeah. It's,
Should I let him know who's talking?
I'm gonna go and talk to you. I don't wanna like, I don't wanna take my notes.
So should I just put your name here and then it's transparent like nothing?
It wasn't really like, it's a simple.
Pretty much.
Do you want some good